Welcome. Good morning to the Career Mastered Inside Career Success Show. I'm Dr. Lisa Lindsay Wicker, CEO of Linwick and Associates and publisher of Career Mastered magazine. You know what? I am ecstatic today to be here with you. I can't tell you that we've had so many wonderful things happening over the last couple of months and even the last year where we celebrated 10 years in terms of the work that we've been doing. But today we're starting with Return of the Inside Career Success Show, episode number 23. And really, it is about something new, something fabulous, something amazing. And I got to tell you, this show is about mastering your career. And we talk to high profile women, women who lift each other, women who celebrate each other, women who support one another, and women who really give back and take care of others as they come along. And so it's really about the woman who is in the marketplace and the woman who is each and every day compelling themselves to do the business of business. And so we're here today and thrilled about this platform. And we're going to be featuring this month during Women's History Month, women who we have honored, women who have really shown us and demonstrated what mastering your career is. Now, we know that it's an evolution, that it doesn't happen overnight, but really there are women that have shown just how you do it. But before I bring on our guest, a special guest that is, let me tell you a little bit more about Career Mastered magazine. It is a quarterly publication that was established in 2018. During that year, we launched in New York, Charlotte, North Carolina, as well as Detroit. Since that time, again, we have actually gone global and we're advancing women all over the world. The magazine allows that medium. And so it's really about telling about the brand, about the women, about our allies. And because we're talking to women, don't think that we don't have men allies. We do. And we'll be talking to them as well. But that's what we do. And we pave the way for the next generation of girls. We've given over $60,000 to date to women and girls in the STEM and FAB arena, where we help them understand what the opportunities are in those areas. And the FAB part of that is finance, arts, and business. But today I want to talk a little bit about our guest, and I'm going to bring her on as I introduce her. And she happens to be on our cover of this month's magazine, the spring edition. So if you don't have it, make sure you head over to careermaster.com and pick it up. It's available. And we get to know and have an exclusive talk with her about her life, her role, what she's doing in the marketplace. And then we'll start the conversation. Let me add her to the stage. Hi, Talia.
Hi, Lisa. So excited to be here.
I'm glad that you had an opportunity to meet with us today. We are excited to hear your story. And as you and I talked briefly in the green room, that we met some years ago. And you know what? You had an impression on me. The presence that you brought to the room never left my mind. And I reached out to you years later and you did a little work with me. But I just think that you are about a number of things that inspire women. And it's just so wonderful to see your face today.
Oh, thank you. Right back at you, Lisa. Such an
Thank
impression.
thank you
I
so
love
much.
working with you.
So I'm just going to take a moment to introduce you. We have people on and an audience here that may not know you. And I want to just tell your story a little bit. So Talia Fox is an inspirational leader in every sense of the word. She is the CEO of Kusai Global Incorporated. She is a leadership strategist and legacy builder with her hands involved in developing initiatives, strategies with some of the most critical and complex missions around the world, including defense, wealth inequalities, racial and social justice, aviation, and healthcare. Talia holds an MED in psychology and is a Harvard University fellow. In her book, The Power of Conscious Connection, 4 Habits to Transform How You Live and Lead, she unveils how to maximize human potential and certain daily habits that foster connected cultures and promote conscious equality. We had a sit down with her for our magazine, as I mentioned. And this edition, she talks more about what her habits are and how she can help each of us. And we're going to have that conversation in just a moment. A single mom who, when faced with life, figured out a way to make the shift first in her mindset and go from limited and alone to strong lioness, armed with access, resources to move mountains and change lives. And so we're glad you're here. And we're going to discuss with you more about how we can consciously connect this year. As I mentioned, the theme for Career Masters um, uh, organization of the year is Mastering Your Career, making connections. It all starts with her. So here we are. We're going to start with you. And my first question really is about somewhat of our brand, which is Career Mastered. And mastering your career takes, I think, not only resilience and diligence and commitment, but it requires you to also have detours and pivots. And so, as many of us are pivoting in this environment today, um, I think that you pretty much are master at it. But I want to ask you a question about when did you get a glimpse of your future career, which is the one that you are experiencing at this very moment? And what were your dreams as a girl? I want to know a little about you.
Oh, I love to talk about dreams. And I have to say, before I go into this, I'm listening to you talk, Lisa, and I'm just having this experience because when I think back to my career, there are some faces that come up in my mind. And those faces are usually strong women that gave you, you looked at me with this level of confidence and hope and the idea that because when I met you years ago, in a lot of different, very different place than I am now. And so I just want to thank you before I answer this question about
Thank
dreams for being
you.
one of those faces where the way that we look at each other and the dreams that we actually build for each other can be some of the most impactful ways that we can impact the world. Um,
I agree.
so yeah, so thank you for being that for me. You're a face that pops into my mind in those little moments of insecurity.
Thank you. Thank you.
When I was a little girl, I grew up with a father that was a calypso artist, and I found out later on that he actually couldn't read, and he really spent his life hiding this. And so he used to take me into places like the Mirage, if you guys have been to Vegas, with big meetings with high level leaders, and I was the person at 8 years old helping him negotiate contracts. All these years, I thought that he was helping me and training me in entrepreneurship because I thought he was such a great entrepreneur, but he was actually using me to help him like read through contracts and to navigate this very complex world. And so, you know, I experienced a lot of confidence. And then I also, had this experience where I went with my father. He has a strong, island accent. He's from the Bahamas. And being with him at a young age, I watched people really discriminate against him. I watched him be ignored. And there has always been this little dream in my heart to be able to speak up for those that just don't have, they have the talent, but they may not have the communication skills and tools to be able to advocate for themselves. And so I really have invested my life in becoming a person that can elevate and cultivate my voice. And my
Yes.
dream is to be able to use that ability to support other dreams and to advocate for others and to do whatever I can to really make this world a better place, not only for people like me and you, Lisa, but for children and generations to come. Um,
Wow.
yeah, that's my academic piece. I also always wanted to be a singer and actress, so I'll throw that in.
Oh, well, you know what? I can see that. I can see that. Absolutely. Because as you're talking, I'm thinking about the first time that we interacted. You were actually a speaker at a conference. And I got to tell you, when you say that you lift your voice and you make sure that it's present, your presentation and your engagement of the audience is what drew me to you. That I had no knowledge of who you were, but the presence of your voice and how you articulated across that audience, to get us to lean in to the conversation that you were having, right? So, yeah, you do that very well.
Thank
And
you.
so, with the experience of your father, I can see how that would connect you to be able to have this strong voice that you have. Um, Given the topic of your book, Conscious Connection, the 4 habits to transform how you live and lead, I think it's safe to say that you've benefited substantially from having made conscious connections. And what are some examples of your special wins you've gained, big or small, from the power of intentional connections, or I call it conscious connections now that you've brought that you to me. But I think when you're conscious, you also have intent. So tell me more about it.
Yeah, so, this book is really the it's the reflection of about 10,000 hours of studying from communication to psychology to leadership. And I'm always looking for a hack because out of all of this information, if I'm going to teach or share this with people, no one has time to go through the amount of books I probably have read. I've always been a real reader. And I
Yes.
said, if I had to just break this down and narrow it down to 4 simple habits that make all the difference, what would those habits be? And so those habits just happen. This was a coincidence to
Yeah.
spell out the acronym LOVE, which are listen, observe, value, and engage, right? So you do these 4 things and everything changes. So after I came up with this epiphany, I said, let me try it, right? So I have had experiences where there was one particular client that, I walked into the room. I really wanted a contract. It's a really big contract. And, one of the things that we all like to do is we tend to talk a lot about ourselves and we tend to want to really sell ourselves. And so I said to myself, let me take all the pressure off and let me just be totally present, observing what's happening in the room, and let me listen. Let me really lean into what's important to me, which is connecting with people and results and engaging, being of service. And then let me engage from that premise. And so I went up to this particular leader and I just had questions. I actually asked them what their childhood dream is, which is funny, Lisa, right? And so we somehow got into a conversation about Prince, and it was this interesting conversation. He did not look like, if there's a bias there, a person that whose his
Yeah.
favorite artist is Prince. I told him stories about my father. We had a good laugh. We didn't say anything about business. It wasn't. So when I followed up, I actually followed up with, I had such a great conversation with you. And I also want to share a little bit about what we can do. I hear this is going on. And I observed
Yeah.
your facial expression when the person on the stage was talking about this particular area, and I'd love to support you. So this turned into actually a multi-million-dollar contract for us.
Wow.
And it just came from letting go of the pressure, not trying to like oversell. And I will tell you, it was genuine. I didn't have in the back of my mind, oh my gosh, I want to get like a big contract. It was just, let me enjoy myself and let me listen and observe what's happening in the room and see if there's an opportunity for me to be of service.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing how it correlated to dollars, to
Yes.
contracts, but also the acronym LOVE. I wrote that down in the chat that you said it's listen, I believe engage, love, and value. Listen, love, value, and engage.
Listen, observe, value, and
Observe.
engage.
Okay,
Yes.
observe. I wrote that down wrong. Okay. With that, okay, I guess that kind of defines conscious connection. When we talk about that in relation to networking, does it mean that maybe people have misconceptions about networking, or from a rookie, or as a mistake of how they go about networking? Or can you tell me a little bit more how we connect those?
Yeah, so let me just break down the love habits just a little bit, and then I'll tell you how to connect those to networking.
Okay.
So the first step is we're listening to our hearts, we're listening to other people, we're just really present in the world. And observing is our job is to show up and look for connections. And the connections are, what are people needing? How can I, play a part in what people are needing? And we're not forcing anything. You're just listening and observing. Once you listen and observe, you really pay attention to what your values are and what you want for your life. And you pay attention to what other people, you really listen to what's important to them. And so by the time you're ready to engage, you're engaging with a lot of intel about the world and about what is. Not assumptions, not about what you want, not about all these dreams and things that you're trying to accomplish. You're simply understanding and analyzing what you're seeing and what is, and you're ready to engage in the moment based on that information that you're receiving.
Got it.
So, one of the things that I see in networking, the first thing is people are very self centered. Self centeredness actually leads to a lot of anxiety and fear. So
Mm.
I've watched people network and you can feel and see how nervous they are. If
Yes.
you were feeling nervous networking, that's because you're too focused on self.
Got it.
And so when you come out of self and you have an idea that the value that I bring is worthy to people, it's absolutely okay if they're not ready for the value. I am going to show up with a smile on my face and good energy, with this confidence that I will be kind of led to the conversations. And in the moment, I'm going to be so present that I will know when it's my turn to
Yeah.
step up and add that value. So
Wow.
if you approach it with this very relaxed, confident experience, and there's you can hear, I'll uncover this. People hear a little faith stuff
Yeah.
going on behind the scenes, which is absolutely okay.
Yes, it is.
Going with the flow, it really is a strategy as well. So if you're not, a faith-based person, the strategy is when you operate that way, you're calmer,
Yep.
you're more, people want to be around you. And you also are present enough to get the information you need to make decisions about how you might add value.
Yes, yes. Wow, you said a mouthful there. Oh my goodness. I mean, I was going to ask you the question you already had of me about how do you practice it, but you said a couple of things. I'll go back to my early days when I used to dread networking. I used to dread going to events because I'm feeling like, okay, I got to stand in the corner. I don't know anybody. I don't really have a conversation to, for them. I don't know what to say. But you just laid it out. You have to take the picture off of yourself, and then you can relax and have confidence in listening, right? And observing. I mean, you just gave us like amount 100% that, okay, we're going to pay for that. Snap, snap. It's exactly what we have. Our audience said is excellent. Lindell said that's excellent. Diamond said it's great. And it's just good information. Wow. So I don't have to ask you about networking because the whole idea about connections really is, if you're conscious about it, you're going to make sure that whatever purpose there is in it, you'll walk away with that, right? And so my hope is from reading your book that we'll understand more about the technique, right? So tell me this, what do you think it is that, and maybe you've already answered it about, how about the people who struggle with social anxiety that I just said? And you told us like you just relax, right?
Mm.
And whether it's faith or whatever. In terms of organizations, for example, you once said that creating a successful, happy organization lies in the power of conscious connection. What do you mean that? How do you practice this for people that have a job or at work? How does this correlate to that?
Yeah. So two things. Based on the social anxiety, I do want to say as a caveat, because I'm a former therapist before I got
Oh,
into this work, that really take a look to see if you need some additional help, if you're in how strong your social anxiety is, because I sometimes give these techniques and people are dealing with some really serious things. So I'll just say that as an aside. The other piece of that is just a very direct one sentence way to deal with social anxiety. It's often related to our confidence and the thoughts that are going in our minds. And so literally practicing giving yourself some different thoughts when you go into a situation, something like, I'm worthy. My value is I'm just as valuable to someone else as they are to me. Nobody's better than me, and I'm not better than anyone else. We're all here just doing the best we can. Something in your mind that just calms you down. From an organizational standpoint, if you're leading in an organization, conscious connection is the reflection of a series of habits. And so I actually use the love system. I don't call it that, Lisa. My book was, I was able to kind of be free. And so
yeah.
my son, who's 17 now, pointed out that it made the acronym
17?
love.
You
It
gotta
was
stop. He's 17 already?
17.
Oh my goodness. That's
I know.
amazing.
I
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I use this as a strategy within organizations. You can apply it to any strategic um, strategy, whatever you're wanting to accomplish. And that is number one, you're going to listen to stakeholders and you listen to the people within the organization. And then from that listening, you're going to observe the results and the connection. So, looking at your data, looking at actually what is. So many of us listen, and then from listening, we make a bunch of assumptions about what we heard and what that means. And that leads us to kind of unreliable results because we're not really observing, real data. So let's just say someone is complaining about senior leadership, and then you see in the data that you're losing people,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that observation of losing people tells you that what you've listened to, that there are certain results, and be open to what you heard, that leading to unexpected results, because sometimes we just, again, make assumptions. At that point, you say to yourself, this is what I've listened to. This is what I've observed. Now let me go back and look at our values. What does this
Mhm.
company stand for and what's important to us? And so from there, you're going to think about what your strategy will be and how you will engage your stakeholders and engage the employees in a plan moving forward. And
Wow.
so there's a whole, and you do this over and over again. And this is so that you are moving forward with not only intel, but you're overcoming the assumptions that we make about what's going on.
Right, right,
Um,
right.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, you can easily take that and lay it over your relationships with people.
Oh, yes.
I mean, for people that may have a relationship that isn't working, have you stopped to listen? Have you stopped to observe? All
Yes.
right. Have you engaged properly? Right. All those things. And so, I mean, that's powerful. It's simple, but
Simple,
powerful,
powerful.
It's
Yes.
like that. Okay. Well, you have absolutely been a woman of influence. Tell us more about and describe how that happened and the influence that you've had at some of the top corporations.
Yeah. So it's so funny. You probably have experienced this too, Lisa. When you're reading the bio, you think to yourself, how did all this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, so it's interesting. I feel like it's been a series of surrender. But I will say that there in my career, early on, I was that person that was really trying to be perfect. I remember going into trainings and I wanted to have pearl earrings, and I would literally look in the mirror and say, do I look like a professional adult? And I would try to adjust myself. Um, and there was so much control, me trying to be so, I wanted things to be so perfect and I wanted things to go my way. And it was during that time that I didn't get a lot of traction.
Wow.
Then there was this shift in me, and I don't know if it was, having children, also maybe even being exhausted at times and prioritizing my happiness and joy. There was a shift in my confidence of doing what I shared earlier, of saying, I am going to show up in this world, get the skills that I need, and
Mhm.
just be of service, not only to organizational outcomes, but I want people, we'll talk about Maya Angelou's quote, when they're in my presence, that they feel uplifted.
Yes.
Um, and not diminished in any way. And I said, I'm just going to focus on this.
Right.
Forget about me looking so good, my hair being perfect, all of that stuff. I still make it to the
Yeah.
hairstylist, and I do the best I can. Um,
Oh,
but that's not my core focus. I used to do talks, and I was literally thinking, "Oh my gosh, there's a flyaway. What do I do?" Um,
oh
um,
my
but
goodness.
now I just surrender. Definitely surrender to this moment. I have to tell you a quick story.
I'd love to hear it.
So I was at a networking event, and it was at a similar conference that we've been to together. And I had these heels on and they were hurting my feet. My feet were throbbing. They were throbbing so hard that I don't even know if I could hear myself think.
Oh, that's not good.
So I was, I don't know if any of you have been, I don't know what happened with these shoes. They were new shoes. They were cute. I decided I was going to go that route because I wanted to be cute over comfort.
Uh-huh.
So I made the decision I had to leave this event. In the middle, as I was walking away, someone comes behind me and says, it was a very high level military leader,
Uh-huh.
wants to actually talk to you. He's right over there. And I looked over and I said, oh my gosh, I have to walk from where I am to this gentleman. So I kind of made my way over to him. And as I introduced myself, he asked me a question. And I said, before I answer this question, I need to use your shoulder to take off my shoes.
Wasn't that such a relief?
And so I said to him, I said, you are such an important part of our world and society right now. I want to make sure that I'm grounded and comfortable so I can think clearly to answer these questions. And we just had a really big laugh. That again ended
Yeah.
up being quite that ended up having, business results and all this
Yeah.
other stuff in a great
Yeah.
relationship. But it was this moment of authenticity that
Yeah.
at that moment I was just like, okay, I'm going to operate differently because it's okay.
You know?
I can be grounded, I can be comfortable, and I can also add value.
Yeah, and
So
our audience is saying, we've all been there. Diamond said, we've all been there. Absolutely understand it because we're all the same way. But you know what? In that moment, he saw that you were truly authentic in yourself. I mean, what can you do except enjoy that?
yes.
You know? but that brought a connection. All right. I'm sure, his shoes may have hurt one time or another.
Well, or he knows someone, he knows the journey. I don't know, but it did bring a connection.
Yeah.
So, from there, that strategy actually, I don't want to say that even saying my authenticity brought that value to me is a little bit self-centered. I'm going to say this in a different way.
Okay.
I moved away the distractions that deprive others of the value that I have to offer.
Wow. Let's say that again, would you please?
So I moved away the distractions that deprive others of the value that I have to offer.
My goodness. That's the whole show right there.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm just gonna say that's the show right there. I mean, think about that and the power in that, because we all get distracted.
Yes.
There's no way to connect if you're distracted. All
Mm-mm.
right. There's really a disconnect.
There's a
And what you just said is so powerful that you cannot give yourself fully if you're distracted.
Yes.
But that brings about the whole idea of your book. You are then going to be conscious. You can't be anything else but conscious if you are focused, right? But the value of what you just said, okay, that's a $1,000 therapy right? There's $1,000 therapy session. We're gonna take that right there. We're just gonna grab it, and everybody on the session listening, just put that in your pocket and remember that, especially if and when you're in a conversation. I'm just gonna say this. I know you're the person that should be given the comments here, but I want to say what you just said has happened to me when I was in corporate America so many times that I walk in my boss's office, I'm talking to them, he or she, and they don't hear a word I say because they were so distracted. And you can tell immediately when somebody is not intentionally dismissive, but because their mind is somewhere else, they couldn't give me any value. That's powerful right there. Absolutely. I appreciate that. So we're going to actually ask you the question on navigating these times. Like right now, these times are different. You and I talked about that for a moment, especially as women's business owners. We're experiencing some change within the marketplace, and we won't discuss all of that, but I think that's part of the journey. That's part of the ability to be resilient. That's part of the ability to um, be, as Diamond says, brave. It's part of what we need to stay connected and why we should stay connected. This is a time of connection, making connections. And our theme, as I said, is it starts with her. Give us some advice, us women in particular. Men, we love you too. But when we have adversity in our space, how is it? What can we do to actually navigate a little bit differently when doors are hard to open, and as it relates to connections?
Yes, so I have to acknowledge our company too is going through some very difficult times. I mean, we provide a lot of services to the federal government, and so there've been quite a few hits just over
Yeah,
the past couple of months.
yeah.
And so, the very first step for me is I have this actual system when these things happen. So it's like when everything is coming at you, and I've developed this system. I talk about it in the book. Is that my mind has to be right and my mind has to be clear.
Okay.
You can take everything from me, but you cannot take my joy. You cannot take my grit, and you cannot take my grace. And
Yes.
so no matter what is coming my way, I'm going to show up consistently. Um, as a professional and do the best that I can. And I'm going to actually work on my energy of really showing up with that joy and that hope that we know that things do change and things do get better. And
Yeah.
so that is the first step, is getting your mind right.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Mindset.
and I took a few moments to not have a mind right. You can do that, do whatever you need to do, like, cry it out,
Yep.
box it out, exercise it out. But then you say, okay, get your mind right. And then the next piece is so with my team, one of the things that we've been saying, we are going to stay in the arena and we will keep utilizing our skills and what we know to navigate the arena. And so basically stay in the arena. A lot of people, when things like this happen, they get a little nervous and they get on the sidelines. If you are on the sidelines, you are just watching. If you can just stay in the arena, you're going to take hits, which is absolutely normal. Life has its ups and downs, but really this is the moment that you get to use any of the skills, the development that you've had. This is game time, right? You're really there. And so for me, in terms of doors closing and doors opening, I actually have been acting as if. So we've had a couple of doors close.
Yeah.
And, I sent a very gracious email saying, thank you for this email. We know that there's a lot of services that you will need in the future. Appreciate and looking forward to, right? Us restarting this, right?
Exactly.
So it's really, I'm in this mode of, I'm going to act as if that this is a kind of a temporary blip and that it might turn around. I don't know what might happen, but I'm keeping that door sort of primed. Right. I still do the follow up, even though it seems really bleak, and say, hey, just checking on you. How are you? We're available here if you need some support. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I will say, literally in 2 weeks, it's been amazing from the time that we've gotten some amazing hits. I mean, it was Floyd Mayweather style.
I felt the pain. Okay. I've been on the floor and up again. So
it was some hits. Literally in a matter of 2 weeks, I had to take some time to, I had to kind of cry it out as well. And I had my moment. I wasn't feeling that great, but I'm amazed at how quickly you can start to see the evidence of things turning around. And so just to give you some very specific, direct things, this is the time for connections.
Yes.
So our strategy now is we're partnering with larger organizations, really focusing on partnerships for emotional and business support. And then the second thing is innovate. So this is the time not to tap into what you did before, what regret. I know we're going to sit around and talk about why it's happening, what's going on. This is our time to say, this is the big question, is what's the opportunity here?
Exactly.
What's the opportunity here? Exactly. And so that is the big thing, innovation and partnerships.
Yes. Well, you spoke a mouthful. This whole conversation has been great for me as well as our audience, because we too, as a business owner, have had to get up off the ground a bit and figure it out. And having a great group of people that are connected to my organization has given us a chance to pivot, adjust, and keep it moving. Right. So I'm excited about what's to come. I'm excited about the fact that we all know that when you struggle, it only makes you better. Right. You just get in the arena and just know that you can still do this. So you've often made an impact wherever you've gone. When did you know that you had a purpose to impact in this world? When did it finally say, aha, oh my God, I am making a difference?
We did a really large multi-year project with a very large organization. And we just went in and did our thing. We were very innovative. We did a lot of focus sessions. So we had a lot of intel, and we developed this program. And I ended up getting these messages on LinkedIn, and we probably got it was probably about 300 plus messages on LinkedIn. And I was watching this feed on LinkedIn coming through, and people were saying things like, this changed my life. I feel so much better in this organization. They had stories about how people were treating them differently. Another woman was saying that I was really sick and I just needed some hope.
Yes.
And I was dealing with a health issue. People just talked about being single moms, and I told a little bit of that story. And so I just had a moment, and I got very teary-eyed because I said, you do your work and you hope that it's impacting, but I felt like it was such a gift that I just got in that moment, the feedback. And it was a lot of feedback where, I said, stay the course here, because something is happening. Because, I get agitated with clients and bureaucracy and red tape. And I just say, forget about it. I'm going to go try to go to LA to try to audition for a commercial.
Yeah, no. So you can do that singing that you always wanted to do, right? Right.
I'm doing something else, get frustrated. And so it was just this moment of light where anytime I see that, when we show up and we do a good job, that we become someone else's light and they share that light, and it
Right.
just has this ongoing impact.
Well, definitely. Like I say, you made an impact on me when we first met. Now, do you think for a moment that you have a superpower, or just for fun? What do you think your superpower is?
I love the question about superpower because I do think about this. So here's my thought about superpower. I do think that we all have these latent superpowers, but I think that we have to develop skills in
Mm,
order to unlock those superpowers.
good
And
stuff.
so for me, I really do put um I think there was one year I read about 250 books, right, on leadership and different things. So I have on my nightstand. If you guys want to know my method, is I actually have about 8 books on the side of my nightstand. I don't read everything from beginning to end, but I do this thing in the morning, at night, where I open up and I just say, "What's my message today?"
I mean, that's good. That's good. I love it.
And so over time, I end up gathering. This particular year, I read all these books from beginning to end, but now I just look at books and I'm always trying to gain information and gain knowledge.
Yeah.
And so I think with all of that knowledge, I am able to think about how you can translate knowledge into something that can actually make a difference,
Yes.
some kind of strategy. So if I had to pick a power, it's that ability to take a lot of information and turn it into some kind of actionable step that makes a difference.
I love it. I love it. Well, in terms of our audience, I'm going to ask, as I'm asking you the next question, if they have questions, to put it in the chat, and we can give those to you. But who has been inspirational for you as a model of leadership?
Yeah, so I have, it's interesting. It's so hard to identify one. I have so many inspirations. There's one leadership development colleague of mine, and we've been friends for, I don't know, 30 years, and she actually came to the birth of my second child. She actually came to visit me, and it was so
Uh-huh.
sweet 'cause I was going through such a hard time. And you know, w- when I was not only was I a single mom, but my life was just very, very different. I was on welfare. I just like didn't know what my next step was, and it was really, really difficult. And so um, she asked me a really weird question because I was telling her how difficult life was,
Yeah.
and she goes, "What's unique about you that would make you not be able to be as successful or as rich as anybody else?" It was
Wow.
it was a, it was a twisted question. So
Yeah.
she's like, "Is there something about you that you think would prevent you from being as successful and as out there as anyone else?" And she used, and I stopped for a moment and I said, "I've never thought about that." Like I always was thinking about what it was about me that was a limitation.
Yeah.
But I never thought about what it was about me that wasn't limiting,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so she continues to inspire me because she just asked the question. It was non-judgmental. She didn't, you know what I mean? It was one of those pieces. So I feel
Um,
like a lot of, people in my life, I also am inspired by my oldest son. He's just so wise. Um, he always says to me that he's excited about it, really get excited about the journey and look at our relationship with failure.
yeah.
So the fact that we think that failure and certain things are bad, as we talk about that all the time, is what is your relationship with failure? What is your relationship with goals? Because however you perceive all of those things, if you perceive it as hard and difficult, it's going to be a journey that's not as fun as if
Right.
you perceive it as like this is the greatest part of it, is trying
Right.
to see how you can
Wow.
overcome things and be resilient. This is the fun part. Imagine how differently your behavior is.
I'm sitting there thinking about that in relations to conscious connection.
Hmm.
What relationship do you have with failure, and how do you see that as limiting your connection?
Hmm.
It's got to be a limitation there. You're probably not going to connect as powerfully as you can if you think that you're going to fail, right?
Yes, I always look that I'm paying for, education.
Yeah.
Any failure is just even if I lose money, I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be the best education." Because honestly, I So before we started doing government contracts, do you know that I probably wrote on my own? This is embarrassing to say, but
Huh.
I'll say it to you all. It's a safe space.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
probably did almost 1,000 proposals that were unsuccessful, right? I just was so,
1,000?
oh my gosh, it was we might have gotten one or two, but it was just dreadful. It was so dreadful. But do
Wow.
you know how good I got?
I'm sure. It was education. It was learning.
I stayed in the arena. Now, if I had to do that again, I would have said, if you're doing that many, you need to figure out what's going on
Yes,
there and
yes.
shift your approach. But this is really early on.
Wow.
But every time we have something, I'm remembering one of 1,000 lessons that I learned back then. And
Oh
so
my goodness.
I put myself in a boot camp.
I love it. I love it. Well, you know what? You've given us so many gems this morning. I can't begin to tell you in terms of even my thinking changing as relates to, the distraction, the fact that failure may be an issue. I mean, but the idea of connection being around your acronym that you gave us. A couple of questions, and then we're going to end. What 2 books are you currently reading that you would highly recommend?
So one book that I'm reading, I actually have them with me, is you can't really see because my it's called
Okay.
Decisive, right?
This,
By Tim Heath and Dan Heath. Um,
okay.
I really love this book because if you're in a situation where you're making decisions, it talks about widening your options and asking different questions about your decisions. I am also reading I have I read a lot of books about the subconscious mind and those kinds of things, but I am also reading, I like Robin Sharma, who he wrote the foreword to my book, but he has books like the 5 a.m. Club and books on leadership. I really like his books because he's really focused on entrepreneurs a little bit more,
Yeah.
but he really pulls you into those values and what's important. And so he has a lot of great stories that are critical, but I've been really diving into Decisive just as of late.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, our last question, because we've gone over, and I'm okay with the first, coming, especially you being on the cover and people probably wanting to pick up the magazine to learn more because you have really given us some gems this morning. But for your parting words, can you tell us what advice for women you want to give them in terms of helping them master their careers?
So I would say that you don't have control over mastering your career, but you have control over your grit, your grace, and your joy.
Yes.
And so you focus on the things that lead to mastery. And the things that lead to mastery are daily disciplines, keeping your energy, your health, and your life in a very high level experience. And that will lead to ease and flow, and that mastery will bring. And so I think that that's really critical, is that when we're focusing on doing and controlling, you don't get as good of results, but we focus
Yeah.
on those things that lead to those results. And that just changes everything.
I love it. I'm writing this in there for them. I told them grit, grace, joy, daily discipline. And then with ease, you'll evolve into mastering whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Talia. It's been wonderful. Yes, I've enjoyed this. I can't wait to connect separately. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for all that you're doing. And congratulations on being one of our Leadership in Action Award honorees. It certainly doesn't stand up to the wholeness of you, but it's our small way to say thank you.
I'm so honored, Lisa. So good to see you.
Good
It's
to
been
see you
wonderful.
too. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye now. Gosh, I didn't even know where to begin. This was awesome. I can't tell you. I appreciate all that she's offered. I wrote notes, copious notes. I hope that you did too. Talia is, like I say, a lioness in all that she has provided, and she is outstanding. So, want to learn more about her? Follow her, if you will, on kusai.com. I think you can connect with her on LinkedIn. Her books are on Amazon as well as Barnes and Nobles. Thank you so much. I hope you'll join us here. Next Wednesday, we'll have our next honoree. We're going to be providing an opportunity to glean, to lean into what our honorees have to say. And as she said, we've pivoted, adjusted in this environment, and Career Mastered is going to start in the next month. Our next program, which will be Leadership brunches across cities. We're looking for women ambassadors, but we also will be having brunches in New York, in Charlotte, Detroit, Texas, you name it. Whatever city we have an ambassador that's willing to host, we're going to have our leadership conversations. We're not going anywhere. We're just moving forward, moving better, moving faster, and with ease. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next time around. Bye now.